Hello and welcome to another episode of GM Talks, the second day in a row. We're back again. Thank you for watching. Today I'm gonna talk a little bit about how to improve from, say, 1900 to 2200. And the reason why I'm talking about that is because I have this problem. I have these two young students who would very much like to make that step very fast. So is that possible? And what should you go about? Well, the first thing I have done is to sort of try to recognize the difference between being a 1900 player and being a 2200 player. So and to be honest, I believe that 1900 players today are much better than they were when I was 1900. I've never been 1900, but something like that, 2000 or something. They're much better. One of the things is they're very well trained in a lot of positions where they know what to do. And unlike like me, who read a lot of books about Nimzowitsch and Kasparov and Karpov and Botvinnik and so on, and got to tell how to play, this is good knight versus bad bishop, something like that. They just see, okay, in this position, this is the right way to play. And they can probably tell you that the computer will say it's 0.4 too wide or something like that. But that makes it a little bit more difficult to quantify where their understanding really is lacking, and so what do they know that they or what don't they know that they should know to get from 1900 to 2200. And to be honest, I'm sort of shocked that people can make that step very fast, because it's a huge step. Because to be honest, when you go 1900 players, you can become a 1900 player being very one-sided and just being able to do one thing well. If you're a great attacker, you can get attacking positions and you can kill the opponent king, and that's just fantastic, right? But when you get to 2200, if you're only good at attacking and your technique is bad or your positional play is bad, well, they will take you to that forest instead of the forest you want to go to. So you need to be more universal in your knowledge of chess. And and first of all, you have to sort of get your the lower level of your play has to improve, so you don't make horrendous mistakes. Anyway, we're gonna see a game, and I'm gonna talk us through the game. It's I think it's Armageddon. It's from the chess tour Crunch Lab. It's when Carlsen lost to Vachier-Lagrave, and it's kind of systematic or sort of symptomatic for what's going on when a player is a little bit off his game and not really where he should be for a player like Carlsen. And I heard his mother died recently, and I remember when my mother died, it took at least half a year before I was able to see sort of rise above it and think a little bit clearly. But the interesting thing about it is both players like Lagrave and Carlsen are very intuitive, and Lagrave is more or less only in a dynamic way, and Carlsen it is in everything. But when everything stops working, it becomes really clumsy, and that was kind of interesting. Anyway, I'll try to sort of get in what we should look at from a perspective. I was trying the arrows here. By the way, give me feedback on the sound and the light and so on. Not the accent, I can't help it. It's my Danish accent is just there to stay. Okay, we have Lagrave. He's a very well-known knight of player, so Carlsen goes for the Moscow variation with bishop b5 check. In general, Carlsen has revolutionized the chess openings. It's no longer also things has changed. When Kasparov was king, everybody wanted to have an advantage with white and play very sort of principled chess. And nowadays nobody wants to play principled chess because, well, basically it sucks to play principled chess because you get very one-sided. So you want to be able to hit people with from more sides, and that's also what you could say. Even when you go from 1900 to 2200, you still need to be able to sort of play all kinds of position. You cannot be a one-trick pony with 2200. I've noticed that the one-trick pony is like, for instance, the guys who's always trying to attack on the F file. They get to a sort of a standstill at 2150, and then they have to learn more tricks. It's simply not possible, even though they're very dangerous. This is where it stops. Okay, and this is the standard opening variation, D4, and they started to realize that, okay, the Sicilian structure used to be something that Kasparov said, okay, if you get a Sicilian structure and white does not have an attack, then black is better. This was the understanding we had when I was young. Nowadays they say, well, we have a position and it's very interesting, and white has more space, black has slightly better structure. It could go either way, and it will be difficult to play. So white has improved a lot in how to handle these positions. Having the white squared bishops off the board make the position a little bit more different. Also making the black squared bishop, you don't want this guy here. Let's see him. You don't want that sitting behind a pawn on e5, because then you will very easily end up with a good knight versus bad bishop. And even players who does not know how to verbalize different advantages know this good knight versus bad bishop, because you could just see it far away. Okay, so black decides to fianchetto the bishop, and white takes the Marocchi structure, which is kind of nice, and all this is normal. H3, and basically white is pursuing a sort of Capablanca strategy, exchange one bishop, put all the pawns on the other side. Something like this is something you need to know when you go from 1900 to 2200, that this is the right way for white to handle these positions. And white does have here, if we see it, this is also something you need to know. He's got this under control, and black's got this far under control, and we are more or less fighting over this one. So this is sort of the outline of the structure. You need to understand this, not play for tricks. And so black would like to get some activity going to offset that white does actually have a slight space advantage in this position. Okay, a6. Why is that? Well, one of the things black can do is undermine white's center with b5, and also sometimes you don't want a knight on b5. Rook d1, rook queen e6. Okay, and black starts to annoy white. This is a typical. Well, it's probably typical for Lagrave, that he goes for activity, he goes for dynamics whenever he can. This is the way he plays, and I think he has managed to incorporate it with the rest of his play quite well. It's not like the reason why Carlsen is usually better than Lagrave is because in quiet position Carlsen is just much better. But in dynamic position, Lagrave is one of the kings. He has had some bad results recently, but he's definitely not a bad player, for sure. So white is starting he needs to develop, but black is already getting active, and we see that he's attacking. I need to use the other mouse here, and he's here, and of course the knight is attacking here. Okay. And we go on, and queen b1. So what about taking that pawn? Well, it does look a little bit dangerous, and there's a rook d4 that probably is very, very annoying. So he's of course wary of that. I think something like this is probably going wrong. This looks somehow very, very, very bad in a way. I don't know how exactly to exploit it. Maybe knight a4. I don't know. A3. I don't know. Interesting position. Could be a3. A3. Are you trapping the queen? Probably. Let's see. I'm not. I don't use engine here. Knight d5. Trapping queen c4. Knight d2. Something like this. Yeah, that looks correct. So you can't. The pawn is poisoned. And this is something you need to be able to calculate. And of course, these guys can do it very, very easily. For a 1900 player, that would be tough. For 2200 players, that would also be tough. So that's the same. Basically, the big difference, what I realize, is not the calculation so much. It's more of understanding what's going on and what is important in different positions. That's the real difference in skill between 1900 and 2200. So rook coming in and b3, and we see that he has managed to secure the rook. So there's no knight takes e4, or is there? Yeah, well, knight d5 afterwards will probably get something, and you'll get the bishop here. So a lot of tactics. I think a lot of the time Lagrave is not really calculating these tactics. He's just moving and sense that this is fine. So, and b5 looks very natural. There's things going on here, and we see that black is, as you would expect, fighting very, very hard to mix up the game. This is very, very typical for Lagrave. He will go for all kind of dynamic counterplay whenever he can, and this is sometimes very effective against Carlsen, and otherwise sometimes it doesn't work at all because it's just kept under control. Attacking the queen will have to go, and attacking the knight will have to go, and we get to this stuff. Again, there's some tactics here, and we see that, oh, what about this e5? The thing is, it's hanging. You just take it because the queen is in the out of the way here. But okay, you can take back, and queen goes here, and it's, so what about it now? e5. Well, then you can just go back. And b5 is hanging. So and basically white is hoping to get a position where this will be weak, and he will keep his space advantage. And if black plays e5, then d5 will be a weak square. Rook a b8, covering the pawn. Rook a c1, getting into the, and queen b7. All natural move out of the pin. They're just making a sensible move. He was starting to threaten b4. I think the reason why he didn't like it here, and this is something that's probably difficult to see when you're a 1900 player, but it's something you would instantly see when you're 2200 player, is something like this. And in this side you have this move, which is very annoying, and the knight is coming here with basically a position that only white can win. The knight is very strong. The bishop is you can take it, and you can take, well, maybe win a pawn, maybe not. I don't know. But it's definitely not what black wants. This kind of position. So that's. But now it's b4 might be threatening. Because then b3 would be hanging afterwards, and we would just exchange everything. So b4 and bishop h6, and black realizes that the bishop is about to be a problem down on g7, and rook goes, and e5, and this is something Night Off players will often do. They like to play e5, but it does weaken this pawn here, and for a lot of players this would probably be a serious trouble soon, because you're basically messing up your structure to just attack a piece, and of course you're preventing e5. You're also preventing white from taking f6. But if you don't play very well after this, you might end up in a position like where you will get like squeezed, and of course Carlsen is very good at squeezing. All very interesting, and rook queen b6, and black trusts that in the ending this pawn is not a weakness, and probably this pawn is just as much a weakness. I think black is okay with a draw as well because of the Armageddon thing. So white decides just to take here, also, and here of course white could take this here and get into a rook ending. That's not winning. Most probably it will be easy to cover d6 with the king and a rook, and probably a3 could be weak, and black might even get to take over the c file, very likely. So it's probably a little bit strategically dangerous. f5 could come and give white either a weak pawn here, or a strong center with the d pawn, a pass pawn. So this kind of things is, I think, let's just take a look just to this is kind of very difficult to see that something like this is strategically quite dangerous for white. f5 will leave this pawn here either weak, or this a pass pawn. Black has more active rooks, and so on. So this is a little bit unpleasant. It's probably a draw, but it's not really what you want. And if you try to win, this is definitely not what you want. So rook d3, no taking here on f6. Sometimes that can be good. Rook c6, all natural, covering here, getting ready for more trouble. Rook d1, rook c8, and maybe here you could play a4. I don't know. It's interesting. Black will probably have to sacrifice the exchange, and that could be interesting. Probably a draw, but I think white should probably look into a4, but I think he's overestimating his position here. d4 looks, well, it's kind of a cool move, but it's also strategically a little bit dangerous. There's f4. You have to make sure that this is a good move if you do this. h6, and black is very cool in this position. He doesn't get afraid. He just calculates Lagrave, and I think positions like this are very difficult to play for both 1900 and 2200. They will have problems maneuvering here, because what is important, what's not important, when to shift from sort of strategic play to tactical play, and so on. That's all very difficult. So white goes like all in, it looks like, but it's not, because black is not in a position to jump over here, and it's kind of an interesting position. Queen b8, very subtle move. King d2. I think the computer prefer h5 with interesting play, and I think it is an interesting position. Very difficult to play. King d2, getting out of any checks and covering the queen. Rook a6, attacking something. d5, looks very logical, kicking the knight, so this knight will go to d5, and this rook here will cover here. This is the kind of thing you sense that these guys just know how to do. But there's also this square, and that's maybe a little bit unpleasant. And also this pawn has gone sailing away, and queen a7. Notice white is black is covering f7. Now the pressure is off this pawn and putting more pressure on a3. All very sort of elegant dynamic play by both sides. Rook ed1, also very typical. A3 is covered. You prevent any kind of nonsense here. This one was also eyeing this one, also making this. You cannot get to that pawn anyway, but still. Rook c1, and black is ready to become active. It's not doing much there, but it will be a little bit of a nuisance. And now white is ready for the exchange. He realizes that he's not going anywhere with the attack. He's not going to make black, and it could backfire sort of badly if he's unlucky. So. And here now black is ready to take, and taking this one looks natural, making this knight out of play. And I'm sure that against a 2200 player, 1900 player, Carlsen would win easily from here. Of course he's not against that, he's against someone here, and of course black will get the knight out with this move at some point, but then d6 will fall, so you have to be a little bit more patient. And rook f2 is definitely not the best move. I think is not what we are after with white here. And rook a3, black is getting very active, and this is something that Lagrave is very good at, and I think a lot of young players are also very good at this, but it's very hard to find the right dose, when to be active, when to make, and you have to sort of develop a feel for this these kind of things. And this is an interesting move because it somehow looks smart. On the other hand, it looks really stupid, because the rook is of course really passive here. The idea must be something like this, but that's not going to happen at the moment. And basically, it's probably a very weak move. And it's also somehow you sense that Carlsen is losing his grip here. This was not what he intended. And maybe the idea was something like a4 here, but it's just not working. And now white's king here is in trouble. The knight will get back into the game, and this knight is a knight with a view, and black is probably already better here, and it gets worse, because now it starts to look kind of uncomfortable. I think rook g2 is maybe still able to fight, but this is a clear mistake. This was probably the idea all along to go for the pawn here, but white is having more trouble. And of course, if you can sort of swap that for that one, that would be not so bad. It would be interesting. But black's got this move. And I'm sure this is the kind of thing that Vachier-Lagrave sees very fast. That, okay, first of all, black is having a very serious threat. You probably can see it. The threat is this move, checkmate. So the king is in trouble and need to do something. Also, this pawn is starting to hang, making this knight coming in. This one is already hanging, so you don't have time to take this one, and black, and you're still hoping to take it, and it goes like this, and already white resigned. You suddenly see that, okay, he's losing a piece here. So what a sort of a breakdown from black. but also very typical what goes on when you sort of lose the momentum in the game. So what can we learn from this? Yeah, well, even the best player in the world is not immune to making moves like knight c3, making moves like, I think the worst one was rook b3, and you just sense that that's not where the rook belongs. What's he doing there? It went from this square, where it at least was attacking here, to a totally passive square. And of course, the idea was to play knight c3 and still covering this pawn, but it just doesn't cut it in a position like this with a very active and aggressive player like Vachier-Lagrave. It's just not going to work. So that was I thought it was very instructive in a way. I think Carlsen probably was very dissatisfied with his play after this, and for Lagrave it's very nice for him to have a good comeback. Anyway, I don't know if I quite nailed the difference between 2200 and 1900, but overall the thing to look at is you need to be more universal, and you need to know what's going on in a lot of different positions. And how do you learn that? Well, first of all, you can watch videos like TN Talks. That's part of it, I think. But you can also go through games and do different openings and so on. That's what I did. I think a lot of young players are going through chessable courses and stuff to learn these things, so they learn openings as they go. Openings are very important. You need to understand your openings. Still, it's not enough to have good openings. You shoot, because at some point the opening ends and you have to play for yourself, and that can be difficult. Anyways, I hope you like this video, and I'll be back with one of my own games in another video. I just forgot to put it in the database. I'm sorry. Thank you for